Welcome to this sixth introduction video about an innovations framework called 3F Future Fintech Framework. As I said, this is the sixth video out of a series of 8 videos, and we have in the earlier 2 videos, which is the fourth and fifth video, tried to understand what are those 3 key frameworks, which is part of section 2 of 3F Future Fintech Framework. And they were really very exciting and interesting. I hope you're able to carry this knowledge forward and probably be more curious to know more. So that brings us to the sixth video, as I said, where we are going to discuss the section 3 of 3F Future Fintech Framework. And section 3 basically covers insights on certain key aspects. As I said, in any industry, if you need to track, you need to cover these 4 aspects, right? For example, you need to know the key players in the fintech ecosystem. You need to know the pricing and cost paradigms which have evolved and and which are currently prevalent in this industry or ecosystem. You need to be aware of few regulatory concerns or issues, right? And then obviously you need to be aware of what are the different roles and career opportunities which are evolving and emerging, because our ultimate aim in any business is either we run or do the business, or we get a job, right? Commercially, these are 2 reasons as individuals we are involved in, right? And that's what the sixth video covers, basically insights into those 4 key aspects. So let's quickly run through this. So as you must be aware, and this is something I've covered, so there are 3 sections to the overall 3F Future Fintech Framework. We saw section 1, wherein we covered trends and themes. In section 2, we covered 3 frameworks for innovations called FDLC, FLAIR and FAM, and now we come to section 3, which is 4 key aspects in the fintech space. What are those 4 key aspects? The first one is fintech players, right? So I had mentioned as part of my earlier introduction slides, if you're aware, I talked about things like unbundling and bundling is happening in industry, So let me give you a very small example. For example, lending and payments are going hand in hand, and even as consumers, you must be probably noticing this. So when you buy something today, you either go for a 0% EMI or a buy now pay later kind of product, which is nothing but a convergence of both payments and lending as a product, right? So the lines between lending and payments are thinning. Similarly, few more things are happening where bundling of products are happening, or the players are getting categorized based on some capabilities they bring in, or layered based on capabilities they bring in. There is a historic perspective to it. Some of these categories or players are evolving based on regulations, right? So we need to understand all that, and that is precisely the kind of perspective I try to provide as part of the fintech player ecosystem, which I cover in the section 3. Now comes the second part, which is income, cost and pricing paradigm, wherein I cover, there are various aspects, as I said. So there are close to 10, 12 plus aspects within the income, cost and pricing paradigm. And it's also important to know the historic reasons why this, because see, these things are always shifting in nature. So it takes a shape and it moves in a particular direction. The industry always evolves in a particular, at a given point in time, you can always decipher it to be consisting of these things, but it's also important to probably capture that shift. So I've also tried to do that while talking about what are those ways in which fintechs and digital companies can price or charge, or maybe certain cost aspects they need to be wary of, so that they are profitable. It's beneficial both for customers and the companies and the employees, right? Let me give a small instance, right? So the digital ecosystem, one of the core underlying with respect to a income, cost and pricing paradigm, one core trend is everything is moving from capex to opex, right? So you don't need a high upfront cost. You remember I just in the first point in fintech players I talked about buy now pay later. So something like a buy now pay later or a EMI based payment makes you shift from capex to opex. What this means is instead of giving the full price of a product upfront, you break it up into small parts and pay at a later date. So it is pay as you go kind of basis or in installments. It is easier to manage. Your upfront costs are less, right? So there are many benefits this shift is actually imparting to a lot of these new incumbents players especially, right? So there are many other paradigms in the income cost and pricing which I basically cover, but this was one of the core which I thought I'll just discuss and tell you to offer a quick peek into what exactly gets covered as part of income cost and pricing paradigms. And this is important to know because be it fintech or a digital or any other organization, it is meant to have income and make profits. It's not a charitable organization. So to that extent, the understanding of the dynamics and the trends and the various possibilities here becomes much more important, and that's what I tried to offer it in a very simplified way. You don't need to be a economics or a commerce expert to understand this, right? But this insight will help you quickly because pricing is one of the core factor when you create a product or a solution, right? And you can even innovate there. So you can innovate even in your pricing, right? The third one, as I said, is regulation and compliance. It's very crucial. As I said, fintech and increasingly the digital segment is coming under the purview of compliance. So we all know about data privacy laws. We all know about chances of fraud. We know about all these service issues. We know about mis-selling. So there are many of these issues. So I want to also highlight and caution you that under regulation and compliance, I am not discussing specific regulations, but I am picking up issues which are pertaining to regulations and which are important to be addressed, attended to, or probably the in thing to be discussed about with respect to the new age fintech and digital ecosystem. And they all basically precisely fall under these buckets of privacy, mis-selling, client servicing, frauds, awareness of the user or the customer, and many such things, right? So that's what gets covered in regulation compliance. And you as an industry professional, your awareness and appreciation of this is really very important because you imbibe these thought processes in the framework when you build a solution. Second, it helps you communicate, collaborate, and maybe convince or appreciate what your counterparties or your partners from the compliance and legal teams end up telling you, right? Otherwise, innovation in many companies and countries run into compliance challenges. So many innovations, I myself have faced it because of certain compliance issues. Some innovations couldn't be tackled. They will remain. It's not like this is going to eliminate it 100%, but if you start understanding and appreciating, many things which are solvable will get solved. That's the intent of the spirit in which I've discussed those elements here. So that's as far as regulations and compliance go. And finally, as I mentioned, roles and career opportunities, they look obvious. It looks very logical that you have categories of roles emerging in any industry. So obviously, as I mentioned, many of the components and things I talk about overall in the 3F as part of 3F Future Fintech Framework, including roles and career opportunities, look quite logical and simple. But as I said, the depth it is in the detail. I have captured certain trends which actually happened, where how the shift in various roles and career opportunities happened in past, how it's likely to happen in the future. For example, roles like product manager, business analysts were unheard of in a bank, or project managers. Today, these roles are aplenty in a bank. In fact, many banks, the number of techies probably have outgrown the number of bankers. core bankers, right? So similarly, there are new opportunities which will evolve, and as I said, this is all keeping in sync with all the other concepts or frameworks or thought processes I've shared across the whole framework, right? So they are in sync with each other, so it's not in isolation to each other. It's simplified, it looks generic, but it's done with a lot of thought, and you can be quite assured that whatever I'm talking and sharing with you across all these are relevant things, and it will keep you updated, and as I initially told you, it will give you that edge and clarity. So as mentioned, as part of the section 3 key aspects in framework in the fintech space, we cover fintech players, we cover income and cost and pricing paradigms, we cover regulations compliance, we cover roles and career opportunities. So this is just a quick overview. You know, I probably took you through 3 sections, 3 frameworks, 4 key aspects, right? So I've just concised them in this particular slide so that you get better clarity in terms of what those. So again, we started with the fact that the whole 3F Future Fintech Framework is broken into 3 sections. The first section is trends and themes in fintech, very crisply explained and very simplified for even for non-techies. You remember there are 63 themes which encapsulate almost everything happening in this ecosystem, right? And what it does to you, what is the benefit of it? It basically helps you in orienting, and these 63 themes basically become trigger for your ideas. So that's as far as section 1 is concerned. Then comes section 2, where we discuss 3 key frameworks, which are unique frameworks which constitute 3F Future Fintech Frameworks. It's part of section 2. And how do they help you? So the first framework was FDLC. So all these frameworks basically help give shape to your ideas. So FDLC helps you create engaging user journey, right? Which are profitable, compliant, which factors in security, engagement, everything, right? And I already told you that there is no other framework which is existing which helps you with this thought process, and that's why FDLC, Fintech Digital Lifecycle, stands out. So it helps you with these user journeys. Then we spoke of FLAIR, which is Fintech Logical Architecture, which helps you create requirement documentation, system components, define functionalities, UI UX articulation in a better way, collaborate with your teams in a better way, and this was through those 14 block logical architecture called FLAIR, Fintech Logical Architecture. So that's the second framework as part of section 2. And the third is a fintech API marketplace, so which is conceptualized as an open API marketplace where you can simply pick, choose, drag and drop. And what fintech API marketplace does is it helps you manifest and build the solution, right? So all these 3 are in sync with each other, but they can also be practiced in isolation. So if you want to improve your existing product, whether you have an API marketplace of your own or not, you can still do that using FDLC. So it's not like they are dependent on each other, they are interrelated but not dependent on each other. So that's section 2. And section 3 we covered 4 key aspects which is part of fintech and digital, or for that matter most industries will track these 4 aspects which help you keep tab with respect to certain key things in these industries. And what are those 4 things? The first is the players, the existing and the emerging players, the pricing and the cost and income paradigms, how things are changing. Then we talk about regulation and compliance related challenges. This is the third part, and the fourth part is roles and career opportunities, how the shift has happened and how the the new career opportunities which are likely to emerge, right? And this is precisely what this is like a dovetailing of the fact like what all gets covered as part of the 3F Future Fintech Framework. This basically brings us to the end of video 6. We have 2 more videos remaining. As I said, that they are equally important because they give you much deeper insights in terms of the how will you relate to a framework, why a framework is beneficial, and what are the benefits of the framework, right? And that's something which will how do you get that edge through the framework is something which gets covered in the 7th and 8th videos. But as part of the 6th video, we just covered these key players, pricing, regulatory issues, and roles and career opportunities. So thank you.